Welcome everyone to ArtPlay's Lunch and Learn series. My name is Rachel Arnson, and today we'll be exploring the history of bluegrass in the South in honor of bluegrass musician Sierra Hall's performance at the Alice Stevens Center this Saturday. Our speaker today will be bluegrass expert Brent Warren, but before we get started, there are a few housekeeping notes. If any of you have any technology trouble, please reach out to Dana Farrow. You'll see there's tech in front of her name. She is our wonderful tech support today, so just message her in the chat if you are having any issues with Zoom. We encourage you to ask questions, but please write your questions in the chat and stay muted throughout the presentation. I will ask the questions as time allows, and if we don't get to your question during the presentation, I will ask it at the end. Next, I would like to thank our sponsors that make this program possible: the Goodrich Foundation, WBHM, UAB, Viva Health, and Vulcan Value Partners. Special thanks go to South Arts, who is funding Sierra Hall's performance and related activities. Please note that we do have another free event coming up, a masterclass with Sierra Hall this Saturday from 2 to 3 at the Alice Stevens Center, and I will put the registration link in the chat. And Sierra's performance will be the evening of October 16th, and there are still tickets for sale on the Alice Stevens Center website, and I'll put that link in the chat as well. Without further ado, I would like to introduce our speaker today, Brent Warren. Brent lives in Birmingham, Alabama, and has volunteered as a board member of the Alabama Bluegrass Music Association for 20 years. He is a musician and plays guitar and mandolin in numerous groups in the area. Brent has been the past president of the ABMA, as well as editor of their newsletter, Bluegrass. Currently, he manages their website and e-blast services. When he's not playing music, Brent is the art director of Progressive Farmer magazine, published here in Birmingham since 1886, and it reaches 2 million farmers nationwide. He is married to Lisa Warren, CEO of Andrews Sports Medicine, and has 2 daughters, Kendall and Holland. Brent, thank you so much for being here today, and I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thank you so much, Rachel. It's great to be here. Thank you, everyone, for sharing your lunch with me today. It's good to be here. I love talking music and playing music, so this is really a treat for me to get to talk about bluegrass, something that I love and have enjoyed for many years. If you'll go to the next slide, please, Dana, I'll kind of tell you a little bit about the Alabama Bluegrass Music Association. We're in our 25th year. This year. It was started by May and Jerry Hinton. She lives in Leeds, Alabama. Jerry's deceased now, but they started this association with the intent to promote bluegrass in the state and just to make awareness of the genre, promote festivals and bands and artists. And they've done it faithfully for 25 years. I think I've been doing it for almost 20 now, since I met May at a festival somewhere. I joined and became a board member, and I can't leave, because they really are like family, and certainly enjoy what they do and appreciate what all they do. If you go to the next slide, please, Dana. This is our little newsletter that comes out monthly. If you join the ABMA, it's $25, and you receive this mailed newsletter to your house 10 times a year. And this kind of helps us with our monthly, our big showcase of bands we do once a year, where we kind of showcase up to 10 bands from the Alabama Bluegrass Association who are have members in a band. It's a great event. We've held it at various locations. I think our new home is going to be at the Gardendale Civic Center, so it's usually in the summertime. So you can certainly watch our website, and we appreciate you considering joining. If you don't want to join, you can also go to the website, and the link will be at the end of this, where you can sign up for my e-blast, and I do that every month, and that goes out to about 1,000 people across the state who are music lovers and enthusiasts, and we promote the festivals that are going on, and also just all the pickings and jams and things that are happening. So it's a good way to, if you want to get involved in bluegrass, sign up on the website, or we can put my email at the end of this, and you can send me an email, and I'll be glad to add you to our list. And there's no cost for that. All right, next slide, please, Dana. That's May there on the left. I don't know who the guy is. It was some musician she met new in Athens, Alabama. They had the Big Fiddlers Convention there this past month, and thousands of people showed up for that. But that's kind of what we do when we go to festivals. We set up a booth and have all the flyers from all the festivals around the state, and you can join there. But those are a lot of our board members and all who volunteer to do this, and so it's a nice event, and they really do a lot of work to try to be present at a lot of these festivals. All right, next slide. These are some more of our Mickey Dooley there on the right in the cowboy hat. He's our current president. He's been serving as president for 3 or 4 years now. Sharon, she's in the shorts and the blue shirt over on the left side. She's our editor of the newsletter. And then the other folks are on the board of directors and a few others that are just there visiting our booth. But takes a lot of people to do all this. But the part that I really love about just bluegrass in general and about going to festivals is just the jamming aspect of it. Bluegrass is a very good way to get your feet wet in learning to play an instrument, whether it's guitar, mandolin, banjo, fiddle, bass. The nice thing about going to bluegrass festivals is people are very welcoming. You don't have to be a all-star superstar picker to be able to join a jam. You can play 3 chords and participate, and so that was a good way for me to sort of take my playing to the next level. I had always just played pieces of songs, never the entire song, until I started playing bluegrass, and it taught me how to kick off a song, how to play a break, how to end a song, how to sing. So I think it's a lot. It's a lot of fun, and it's also a great way to develop as a musician. All right, next slide. I couldn't talk about bluegrass and without talking about Bill Monroe. He's often considered the father of bluegrass, and his style of playing was very new. It was cutting edge. Nobody had heard anything like this hillbilly music that he was doing, but it was with the high tenor voices and the harmonies and the arrangements of a mandolin and a fiddle, a bass and a guitar and a banjo. It was really kind of a new thing that he developed. This was in the 40s. But a lot of it, when you listen to bluegrass and when you talk, I read a lot about his influences. There's a lot of other influences in bluegrass. You'll hear Scottish. I was playing a song called Red Hair Boy a minute ago. That's a kind of an Irish Celtic sort of sound to it. You'll hear his song Blue Moon of Kentucky is got a lot of blues influences in it, a lot of blue notes you'll hear. You get into the fiddle tunes and all, and it gets Irish ballads and dance tunes. A lot of that all comes through in different types of bluegrass songs. So I think bluegrass is, some people kind of think it's only one type of song, but it's very diverse in the styles that it can kind of represent. All right, next slide. That's Ralph Stanley there. He played at the Alice Stevens Center years ago. I was there for that show, and all right, okay. Ralph is. I love this quote here. It says, "Monroe was the first, but it wasn't called bluegrass back then. It was just old time hillbilly music. When they started doing the bluegrass festivals in 1965, everybody got together and wanted to know what to call the show, It was decided that Bill was the oldest man and was from the bluegrass state of Kentucky, and he had the bluegrass boys, so it would be called bluegrass. So there you go. That's how the genre came about. I guess Bill being from Kentucky, that's how he named his band, the Bluegrass Boys, but it definitely stuck. Next slide. You probably recognize these guys if you watched the Beverly Hillbillies. That was, I think, their big claim to fame is when they were invited to play on that show. And in the theme song, Earl Scruggs wrote the theme song, I guess Lester Flatt too, to their TV show. And that was probably one of the most, I guess, obvious um, forms of getting the sound out to the world, because everybody watched the Beverly Hillbillies back then. So that was really a huge stepping stone for them, and they're certainly credited for a lot of wonderful music and harmonies and just the real hard driving bluegrass sound. Earl Scruggs has the Scruggs style. They even named his banjo picking style after him. It's the three finger picking style. Sometimes the old time just kind of strummed it, but he did the finger picking. So um, if you hear someone I play Scruggs style, then they're playing with the picks and three fingers. So, next. You couldn't really talk about country and bluegrass either without the Carter family. That was Mother Maybelle there on the left, and her family, her husband, I believe, and daughter. The Carter family was on every radio station and Grand Ole Opry. Sort of more folk, but also had some bluegrass influences. I think the first song I ever learned was a Carter family song. And it's just still today a very played type of genre, and a lot of their songs are played at festivals. Next. Doc Watson, I think, needs to be in this list of pioneers too. Doc recently passed away, I think 3 or 4 years ago, but I did have a chance to hear him live quite a few times and even meet him in person at his festival, Merle Fest, up in North Carolina. But Doc was blind. He was born, I think he had a congenital issue with his eyes and lost his sight when he was very young, but was considered the first flat picker. That's kind of what bluegrass considers, the guitar player's style of playing. Unlike like Scruggs, I was saying, is a three finger picking style. This is using a pick, just a regular guitar pick, like this, but playing the melody of the notes of the song, not just strumming and playing chords, which wasn't done a lot in country music, and definitely not bluegrass as much. But he sort of mastered that and was considered still today one of the best flat pickers in bluegrass. If you ever get a chance, go to Merle Fest up in North Carolina. It's the all-star jam, a 3-day festival of some of the best in the business, and it's a wonderful festival. Next. Jimmy Martin, had to put him on the list too, just because of his contributions. He played with Bill Monroe and the Bluegrass Boys. He was one of the guitar players and singers. This neat story. He sneaked on the backstage of the Grand Ole Opry while he was playing his guitar. He was overheard by the banjo player for Bill, and he brought him back to Mr. Monroe and said he sang a couple of songs and was hired on the spot. So that's a neat story of how he got his first job with Bill Monroe. Apparently, Bill was a pretty tough guy to be in a band with. He went through a few guitar players and banjo players and fiddle players, but he always had some of the best in the business. All right, next. Well, I wanted to kind of switch gears. There's a lot more pioneers, national pioneers that I could bring up, but I wanted to kind of focus a little bit about, or more so, on Alabama and how those influences, or those people who influence bluegrass and music in our state. Next slide. This is Warren Musgrove there. Warren was a journalist. He a newspaper reporter. In 1950, he, if anyone's ever been to HORSEPENS 40, it's just down I-59, kind of in Aniana. It's a beautiful piece of property. It's really wonderful to go visit. You should go if you've never been. It's beautiful stone features. A lot of rock climbers go there to boulder and all. But it was home of one of the largest bluegrass festivals, and this was just a dream of Warren Musgrove. He was kind of a journalist slash promoter. I don't know if he even played music much, but it was his dream to start this. He bought the property and started HORSEPENS 40 Bluegrass Festival, and had some of the biggest names in the business, from Bill Monroe to um, um, you'll see oh, what's her name, oh, well, next slide I'll show you. Who is it? Ralph Stanley. There she is. Emmylou Harris. Thank you. That was her first gig at Horsepens 40, and that's Warren there in the hat, and that's Emmylou sitting on the rocks out there playing a song for her. But she'd autographed that to Jerry and May. I went out to May's house last week and took pictures of all of her photo albums. She had some really great photos. But that one on the right is the rock that obviously is still there at Horsepens 40. Just a big open air amphitheater, and but I thought that was cool that that was her first gig. Next slide. These are a lot of the, some of the guys from Alabama that you may know. I don't know if we've got any of the Spaldings on here today, but that's the Spalding brothers and Herb Troutman there on the left. Selwyn and I still play music together. He's a great luthier. If you ever need some work on a guitar, he's one of the finest around. And his brother Randy plays bass with me and Over the Hillbillies, so I still get to see them. And Herb Troutman, obviously, over at Fretted Instruments, he's the owner of that. But you'll see some other slides over here from clippings from Steele, Alabama, is where that is. Horsepens 40. Some local bands, the McLean Family Band, they were headliners. A lot of family bands in Bluegrass. All right, next slide. There's some more pictures. That's Doc Watson and McLean there on the right. I think Doc was a regular at the Horsepens 40. That picture on the left, you can kind of see the size of that festival. They said it up to 10,000 people showed up to those back in the heyday. They still do festivals there, so definitely check out their website, hp40.com, I think, and you can kind of stay up to date on any of their festivals. This little girl was 11 when she started making her debut on kind of the bluegrass scene. Wendy Holcomb. She had a really great style and very energetic and great voice, and she was Porter Wagner, I think, kind of put her on the map in the Grand Ole Opry and all. But she was from right here in Alabaster, and was unfortunately died when she was 23, I believe. She had a congenital heart disease and died at a very young age. But she was quite a musician. Next slide. David Boley is another one who's been on our board of directors for years, and he started years ago, back in 2009 was the first bluegrass music Hall of Fame induction ceremony, and we had a really wonderful time sort of showcasing and highlighting some of the musicians that are from Alabama who have made a huge contribution to bluegrass. So I don't have them all represented here, but I have quite a few. So just next slide, and I'll kind of take you through some of these folks. The exhibit you see there that was on the previous slide, and here the mandolin on the left, were from the Alabama Music Hall of Fame up in Muscle Shoals. We set the display up there for a few months. But this picture on the right is from our Hall of Fame induction and our showcase of bands. So typically we kind of combine those, and we had sort of the all-star super jam there at the end, but there's a lot of talent on that stage. Next. Just some pictures from different instruments and all that was donated to our to the showcase. That's David Boley there in the white shirt, top right. He's the one who sort of was instrumental. Jake Landers there on the right. He was, I'll talk about him more in a minute, but wonderful songwriter from up in North Alabama. Wrote that song, Walk Softly on This Heart of Mine, was his big hit. And that's May down in the bottom right corner. All right, next. There's Jake. he just passed away about, I think, 2 or 3 years ago, but he was able to come to one of our showcases just um, within the last 3 or 4 years, and it was great to see him. He was had a band called the Country Gentlemen. It was Jake and Herschel Sizemore and Rural Yarborough, all North Alabama guys, and toured quite a bit, but was very renowned songwriter and had quite a few big hits that made it onto country music and into bluegrass. Next. This family, the Foster Family String Band, is another North Alabama band. I'm from Florence, and the Foster family actually lived about a block and a half from where I grew up, and were really my first exposure to bluegrass. That's Bill Foster was just a phenomenal banjo player. I mean, just probably one of the best I've ever heard. I didn't really know how good he was back then, but they would sit on the front porch of their house, and I'd be riding my bike by, and I'd see them jamming, and I would just stop and listen. And Will and Melissa are my brother and mine's age, so we went to school together, and in fact, they recorded a album at Muscle Shoals Sound, and invited me to go listen, and that was the first time I had ever been in a Muscle Shoals Sound studio. That was when it was down on the river, but they recorded an album, and I still remember how neat that was to hear their family play and watch the recording process and all. But they toured quite a bit. They had this old RV that they drove around to festivals everywhere, and they still participate in all of our events. They come to almost every festival I ever go to. I see Miss Foster and Melissa there for sure. All right, next. This is probably the queen of bluegrass in Alabama, I would say. Claire Lynch in the Front Porch String Band. Claire's played music in Alabama. She now lives in Canada, but she has roots in, I think, in Huntsville. But that's her band with Andy McGinnis and Herb Trotman down in the bottom left corner, and her former husband Larry on mandolin. But they played in Birmingham for many years. She's sung backup for Dolly Parton for many years. She has a very similar voice to Dolly, but she's if you're not familiar with her, you need to look up Claire Lynch. She's one of my favorites. Next. This is Louisa Bronscombe, and Claire's inductee in the Foster's stuff from our Hall of Fame. Next. Herschel Sizemore is another North Alabama legend in mandolin. It's him talking to Chris Thiele there, another person I've seen at the Alice Stevens Center before. Herschel wrote a hit called Rebecca that is probably one of the most widely played jam songs you'll hear at a festival. He was in the band I mentioned, Country Gentlemen. He was Jimmy Martin's band leader for a while too, as well as Del McCrory in his own band, the Bluegrass Cardinals. But I believe he's still living and playing some. But look up his song Rebecca. It's a great fiddle tune, mandolin tune that he wrote. Next. Country Boy Eddie. I don't know how many of you all grew up watching the Country Boy Eddie show. I was pretty young, but I do remember seeing it. And he did it. Did that show for 37 years, which is incredible to have a career like that in music. He's from Warrior, Alabama. Played the fiddle and taught himself just to do that by listening to the Grand Ole Opry. He performed with Bill Monroe and Webb Pierce, and he was funny. He just had this great, country style of humor, and loved traditional music and bluegrass, and had lots of hosts on there. And I'm sure you can find some old Country Boy Eddie shows on YouTube, but he was a treasure for sure. Next. There's Herb. If you haven't been by Fretted Instruments in Homewood, you need to do that. He has owned that business for many years and has some of the finest instruments you'll find anywhere. Anyone who's looking for a first-class instrument, whether it's a mandolin or guitar or banjo, you can find it at Fretted. He performed with the Spalding Brothers and Claire Lynch and all those, as I mentioned, and Three on a String. But he's a wonderful guy and great shot. LOUVIN Brothers, I had to mention these guys. They're Charlie and Ira. They're from Sand Mountain. Sand Mountain's got a lot of good bluegrass in the genes up there. They had a #1 hit on the Billboard. I Don't Believe You Met Me, Baby was their #1, and then they had, I believe, 3 or 4 more that were in the top 10 hits. So those are they were certainly writers and had a really tight sound as far as their harmonies and kind of that high lonesome sound. All right, next. Gary Waldrop is another renowned banjo player. He lives in Sand Mountain. He just hosted his own Gary, what do they call it? The Camp Jam, I believe is what he calls it. He's got a big farm up in Sand Mountain and hosts his own festival up there and just invites people to camp out on his property. But he is really incredible on the banjo and a great performer. His sister is the singer, I believe, Susan, and they had a band called the Warrior River Boys for many years and toured all over. But Gary has put a lot of miles on his tour bus playing bluegrass festivals and is a big popular act at most of them you'll see. All right, next. They're on a string. You can't talk about bluegrass in Alabama without these guys. Just salt of the earth, good fellas, and Bobby and Jerry and Andy there were just kind of the perfect on trio of just humor and music and they have taken that show and after 50 years, they just celebrated 50 years this year. They had the kind of reunion of all the people who have played with them throughout the years and just looking down at those folks there on the bottom, they really embraced all the people who played music in the area and figured out a way to have them come in and guest appearance or something. But Jerry just received an honor. He was given the Jerry Theater up in Hayden, Alabama. They named a theater after him at the Sugar Creek Supper Club. Now it's called the Jerry Ryan Supper Club. So that was a nice honor that he just received last week. But they're still playing and like I said, Andy and I play in a band called Over the Hillbillies, and he rode 100 miles on his road bike the other day. So I mean, these guys are amazing. So next, this guy right here is probably I could talk all day about him. This is Glenn Talbert. He is really the reason I play music and play bluegrass. He was my guitar teacher. He lived right down the street. I live in Vestavia. He lived right down the road from me. And as a Christmas gift one year, my wife gave me some lessons, and I heard about Glenn, and I was like, I'll go take some bluegrass. And just a little background, I'd never really learned to play a song all the way through. I could play little pieces of songs, and Glenn brought me in and showed me kind of how to play I Saw the Light or something like that. Just something real basic. It was my first lesson, but he would tab out the notes on how to play the melody, which I had never learned to do, and he's just a sweet man. That's the only way you can describe him. He was the nicest person he was so encouraging and so I took lessons every week for over 5 years, I believe. And I have his entire collection. It's a notebook probably this thick of guitar tabs. And I call him the common denominator because everybody that I play music with or know in this musical circle that I've started had some connection to Glenn. When I went to his funeral, it was full of just friends that we all met through his either saying, hey, you need to meet this guy, or you need to play with this guy, or hey, just it was constantly encouraging us. So he left quite a legacy. Next. So, I wanted to just talk about some others that, have really pushed the envelope. When you hear bluegrass, some people don't really understand that it's not just three chords. Sometimes bluegrass can be some of the most complicated, um, you know, and difficult music you'll hear. Alison Krauss, Ricky Skaggs here, and Chris Thile are three who have sort of, um, in their own way, have made a new genre of bluegrass. It's Chris Thile, I believe I saw was coming to Alice Stevens Center soon. I've seen him at Alice Stevens Center. I've seen Ricky Skaggs there, but I don't know anyone. Skaggs was a huge supporter and fan of Mr. Monroe, and his style, I would say, was more influenced by Bill than anyone, and his band sort of still continues in that style. Chris has pushed the envelope to a whole nother level, and Allison as well. Next. These are some others that I just had to put in here. These are three of the pictures I took at Merle Fest. Tony Rice in the top left corner, he just passed away last year. Glenn Talbert introduced me to him as far as just his music, not personally, but he was a huge Tony Rice fan, and I think anyone who plays bluegrass would say that Tony was their hero, their mentor as far as a bluegrass guitarist and great singer. And we lost a good one with him, but he was the smoothest playing guitar player I've ever heard that plays in this genre. Of course, Sam Bush there on the right with Tony. Sam's played at Alice Stevens Center before. Bela Fleck, I know he's been there as well. Pushing the envelope. Sierra's been touring with Bela some this year too, so I know she's been spending a lot of time in that super group. And Dave Grisman there on the left, the dog. He sort of pioneered a new type of sound called doggrass, which was sort of jazz and bluegrass combined, and his sound is very popular and has come out with a lot of songs that have sort of bridged the gap between bluegrass and jazz. If you want to hear a great album, probably my favorite album of all times, Dave Grisman and Tony Rice did. It's called Tone Poems. They did 1 and 2, but Tone Poems 1 is probably one of the prettiest listening albums I've ever had. So I highly recommend that one. Next. We couldn't talk about modern pioneers without talking about Sierra. She's just has, done incredible things. Since she's 10 years old, she was on the Grand Ole Opry with Alison Krauss and Ricky Skaggs. Her new band is fantastic. Like I said, she's been touring with Bela, also with Sturgill Simpson lately. She's just, in high demand. She's so technically advanced, but also so just so listenable as far as her style. I love what she does with the mandolin, and her voice is incredible. So can't wait to the show Saturday night. We'll have a link to buy some tickets here at the end of this, so make sure you share it with your friends. You don't want to miss that show Saturday. And I had to throw Billy Strings in here. This guy is like totally taking the world by storm, man. This guy is a real bluegrasser, but he's packing out stadiums for 3 nights in a row. His tour is sold out everywhere he goes, and it's thousands of people coming to see him. It's a 4-piece band, so if he just won IBMA Guitar Player of the Year and Band of the Year. Sierra just won IBMA Mandolin Player of the Year, so those are 2 pretty prestigious honors, and I wish they would get together and play some. I haven't seen that yet, but I'm sure they will at some point. All right, next. I just want to say thanks to May. That's her again on the left with David and at her house. And you can tell her background. She loves bluegrass. Everything on her wall is bluegrass related. And that's her husband, Jerry, with Roy Acuff. I think it must have been backstage at the Opry, so she has certainly enjoyed bluegrass and supported it for many years, and want to thank her for opening up all of her photo albums and stories. And she told me one. I'll let me see how we're doing on time. She said when she met Mr. Monroe, she was at Horsepens and he was there, and a lady had made him a big pan of biscuits, and he he looked over and he said, "Little lady, will you take my picture with these biscuits?" And she goes, "You talking to me?" He's like, "Yeah, will you take my picture?" And so she did, and he wrote down his address on a tag and gave it to her for her to print it out and mail it to him. And she still has that tag with Bill Monroe's address in Nashville where she sent the picture of him and his biscuits. So she's got a lot of great stories, and we appreciate all she's done. She's done more than anyone I know to preserve the history of bluegrass in Alabama. Next. Well, we got a little time. We need to hear a little bit of music, so I thought maybe we would just take a listen to a couple of links. This is Sierra when she was 10 years old. This was her first appearance with Allison Krauss. Those links up there too, you can check out. Those are the Bluegrass Music Association's website, and then just some other ones. We'll show you the second and third ones here shortly. But the Bluegrass Preservation link is another. Mike Bullard is a good mandolin player, but he's also a videographer, and he has gone to so many festivals and recorded these festivals and put them on a YouTube channel. And so if you like, you can certainly browse those and probably see a lot of really great performances from some Alabama bands and national bands as well. Any questions, or we want to maybe watch a video and then we'll do a little Q&A, Rachel?
That sounds great. And remember, folks, just write your questions in the chat and I will ask them for you. That way we don't have everybody unmuting at once. Thank you.
Okay. makes you sick. I mean, she was 10 and she plays better than I do, and I'll never play that good when she was 10.
Well, we do have a few questions that have come up throughout the Lunch and Learn. The first one was, is bluegrass music popular in Alabama?
I would say so, yeah. I think it's always been popular. I think, you know, there's kind of a new generation of bluegrass, I think, that's kind of coming up. The Billy Strings and the infamous String Dusters, those kind of guys are getting a newer audience. I think as far as traditional bluegrass, it's been tough to lose a lot of the artists and a lot of the festivals over the past few years. We've lost a lot of some really great, legends. And some of the venues that they play. So there's still quite a few. I saw one of the questions was, are there still some festivals in Alabama? And I would say yes, there are. The one that HORSEPENS still hosts some festivals occasionally. They may be not just bluegrass, but certainly go to our website, Alabama Bluegrass Music, and we would have all of those listed there, and then sign up for my e-blast, and that'll keep you in the loop. But Rogersville has a festival each year. Titus has a festival. South Alabama too. So, sorry, that's Remy. But yeah, I think there's quite a bit going on as far as music and bluegrass in Alabama. So, any other questions?
Great. Well, I'll wait one more minute to see if any more questions pop up in the chat. But Brent, if you wouldn't mind playing a tune or two for us to close us out, that would be great.
Sure. My friend Mims asked me to play Eruption, but I don't think I can do that on the mandolin. It's gonna be kind of hard. But how about something like this is a song called Red Hair Boy. It's kind of got that Irish sound to it. So. That's the Red Hair Boy. That's definitely a traditional song that you'll hear at bluegrass festivals. That's one thing I love when you go, and I didn't mention this earlier, when you go to a festival, you can go up to a group of people that you've never met before and go, do you know how to play Red Hair Boy or Gold Rush or Salt Creek or any of these songs? And there's a commonality in the music. So it's really nice to be able to play a type of music where everybody knows the same songs. You can't do that in a rock band. You show up and it's like, do you know how to play that? No, I don't know that song or whatever. So that's really a great trait of bluegrass, is that people do know a lot of the same type of tunes. How about
And Brent, we do have another question. In bluegrass, you hear flat picking. Can you show us what that looks like?
Sure. tune guitar and pretty sloppy, but that's same tune just on guitar, but you just see I'm doing a similar picking like I am on the mandolin, but it's just mostly playing the melodies of songs. So it's, and of course, you know, there's a bazillion. If you want to hear some of the best flat pickers, Brian Sutton, Tony Rice, Doc Watson. Anything else?
No more questions if you want to play another song.
All right. I'm going to do, this is called Sitting on Top of the World. Was in the spring, one sunny day, my good gal left me, she went away. Now she's gone, I don't worry, Lord, I'm sitting on top of the world. She called me up from down in El Paso, said, now Daddy, Lord, I need you so. Now she's gone and I don't worry, Lord, I'm sitting on top of the world. Don't like my peaches, don't shake my tree. Get out of my orchard, leave my peaches be. But now she's gone and I don't worry, Lord, I'm sitting on top of the world. Ashes to ashes, dust to dust. Show me a woman, Lord, a man can trust. But now she's gone and I don't worry, Lord, I'm sitting on top of the world. Now she's long, long gone and I don't worry, Lord, I'm sitting on top of the world. That's a good one. It helps to have a banjo player and a bass player and a fiddle player with you too. I like playing with other folks. I don't do a whole lot of solo acts, so this is a little bit out of my comfort zone. But I'll play one more for you. How about you know, Blue Moon of Kentucky was kind of the first song that I kind of played earlier, but I'll play it at the beginning and then play the kickoff. Usually I have the banjo that kicks it off, but this, I like playing it slow too because it kind of sounds like blues and then it kicks into bluegrass. Blue moon of Kentucky, keep on shining. Shine on the one that's gone and left me blue. Blue moon of Kentucky, keep on shining. Shine on the one that's gone and been untrue. It was on a moonlit night, the stars were shining bright. They whispered from on high, your love said goodbye. Blue moon of Kentucky, keep on shining. Shine on, one is gone and left me blue. This is when the banjo kicks in. I said, blue moon of Kentucky, keep on shining. Shine on the one that's gone and left me blue. Blue moon of Kentucky, keep on shining. Shine on the one that's gone and been untrue. It was on a moonlit night, the stars were shining bright. They whispered from on high, your love and said goodbye. I said, blue moon of Kentucky, keep on shining. Shine on the one that's gone, left me blue. I said, shine on the one that's gone, left me blue.
was applauding too. But it's been a joy to have you with us today. Thank you so much for presenting and playing for us. And thank you to everyone that attended to learn a little bit more about bluegrass. It was great to have everybody on today. And we'll go ahead and close it out. So thank you everyone so much for coming.
Thanks, Rachel, and thanks to Alice Stevens Center. Y'all are just a gem in our neighborhood and our community, and we love y'all. And y'all go to the show Saturday, all right? See ya.
Bye, everybody. Thank you for coming.